we've been really, really fortunate to work with some of the best teams, fastest growing teams in the world, actually. And I really love this slide because it shows you where we are trying to head, which is in a space where there's a lot of new stuff. People are going to be talking about all of the new stuff that is being built. And these are the companies that are really moving us into the future. And I think it was our head of marketing or head of product marketing, Eleanor, who said this, which is, there's not too many things that are real differentiators, but one way that you can think about the differentiation in your company is who are you actually selling for? Who are your customers? And then I think our differentiation is we really want to be on the cutting edge of taking support to the next level. Okay, with that, I'm actually going to do a really quick demo of our product because I think a demo is much better than me speaking, honestly. I'm going to focus on what we call our workflow automations and really focus on this mug refund. So mug refunds is a little funny of a demo, but I think it'll give a really good recap of what we were actually doing here. So mug refunds in this particular workflow. So we've got an AI agent set up, and this AI agent is going to be really focused on refunding your mugs when they're broken. And one of the cool new features that we are about to launch, or have just launched an alpha for a few folks, is called guides. If you are a customer and you're familiar with what we did in the past, you could build these very long, complex workflows to be really, really specific about your chats and your email automations. Now you actually have the ability to come in here and say, now 5, send in email along, and be very, very fast and kind of human readable in terms of how you present information. So in this particular guide, when a mug is broken, we're going to come in here, ask for some information like the first name and the email, and then we're going to see if they're requesting a refund. If they are requesting a refund, we're going to get the defect reason, and if they don't provide the defect reason, we're going to set it to unknown. Cool. That's interesting, right? What does this actually look like? If I come into our AI chat agent, I can say I have a broken mug. And what it'll do is it'll first determine, okay, what is this person asking for? Do I have a issue that is about broken mugs? If so, then I'm going to pull up that guide we were talking about. So I can say cracked in half. And it'll provide me some information about what's going on with this mug. And then it goes and does what that guy told me to do, which is, can you provide your first name and your email address? So then I'm going to provide my first name and email address. And if you looked at this cracked or dent email path, we'll actually see there's a ticket reply here that actually gives you a personalized link to the exchange. Pretty cool. And the new guides feature that we have allows you to do that without very much setup at all. All right, I'm going to try showing you this in voice and see if this actually works in terms of the audio.
Virtual agent, how can I help you today?
Hi, I broke my mug.
Sorry to hear about your broken mug. If you're looking for a refund or a replacement for your mug, I can assist you with that. Would you like me to guide you through the process or help you start a refund request?
Can you help me start a refund request?
All right, one moment, please. Of course, I can help you with that. To get started, could you please provide your first name and the email address associated with your order?
My first name is John, and my email is john@assembledhq.com.
Just a moment, please. Thank you, John. Could you please describe what happened to your mug? For example, is it cracked, dented, or is there a print issue? This will help me process your refund request accurately.
It's cracked.
All right, 1 second, please. Hi, John. Sorry about the crack in your mug. You can start a return and exchange using this personalized URL, https exchanges.assembled.com, A7K3Z. Let me know if you need any further assistance.
So the really, really cool thing about this is it's all in the same place. I set up my workflow once. I've got my chat. You can do it for email as well. I've got my voice, and you don't really have to change anything about it. You just need to go in here to your guide and explain in kind of normal context what you want to do. And we can basically set up all of the different channels for you in terms of AI. Obviously, we can just pull from your help center and try to give you the best information possible, but this guide allows you to really hone in on making a really, really good request. Last thing I'm going to show off, because I think it's really cool, is a feature that we have baking that we have very, very recently kind of been in alpha stage, which is the ability to set up dynamic handoffs. So if you think about what Assembled is good at, which is really how many people do you have, where you need to place them, like what metrics do you have, that's kind of what workforce management is. That's one of the key things that we've been doing for a long time. You'll see that you can actually come in here and use the exact same workforce management metrics and change how easy you are to hand off based on those metrics. So for example, if you have a sale on Memorial Day and you know that a lot of demand is going to be coming in, you might actually not want to go and hire 10 more people, because hiring 10 more people for Memorial Day is pretty difficult. But what you could do is you could come in here and you could say, my normal chatbot is super cautious. I always escalate as soon as I detect any hints of, a problem. What you could do is say, hey, if my average wait time goes above, say, 50 minutes, then decrease the sensitivity of my handoff into a standard or containment focus, which means I will have my chatbot try again a few times before I actually go send it along, which is a really fun thing because it allows you to be much more specific about when you have kind of, maybe a subpar experience, but you might actually have a subpar experience if you have to wait 50 minutes anyways. So now you might as well try a few more attempts at dynamic handoff. So I'll stop with the demos. Come chat with me or anyone with the assembled name tag afterwards if you're interested in learning more. And I'll get on to the main event, which I think you all are here for today. Olivia?
I'll up my chair. We're going to bring up some panelists. Ryan, Ben, Sasha, you all want to come up and join us up here? We're not going to do mics, so we're going to be loud. No, I'm good over here. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, we can just move this. Perfect. So you've got actual names and titles, everyone on the screen, which is great. But what we figured we'd do is a couple things. So we'll leave time for questions at the end, but we're going to start with a little bit of where is everyone actually at. So you just saw some of what the products look like, just to ground you in a little bit of everyone here is using Copilot, which you didn't see, and some other AI solutions as part of their teams, both from Assembled and others. So with that, let's do a quick round of, Sasha, maybe I can start with you. Also, thank you again for hosting us here. Of where are you at in your AI adoption journey? What are you all doing at Etsy quickly? And we'll give everyone the level set on where we're all starting from.
Thank you, Olivia, and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. It's a pleasure to host so many industry peers at our headquarters. Yeah, we'll have some mingling and drinks, and we'll show you the beautiful view of Brooklyn Bridge. But yeah, pleasure to have you all. Yeah, our AI journey, we started it last year with, I think for our CX teams, actually with Assembled Copilot. We went through a lengthy onboarding process and approvals with legal, security teams, privacy, but it was worth it. We did proof of concept and then onboarded and Assembled. We're mostly using the Copilot in addition to our workforce management instance. And then we're using another service for the chatbot, which also has AI component. And yeah, since February, we rolled out to all our outsourced tier 1 support agents around February. And since then, we've been working on increasing adoption. I think we started with like 40% adoption at the beginning. We're now at around 65 and growing to 70, 75. As you know, Etsy is a two-sided marketplace, so we have buyers and seller support. And it's been working really great for seller type of support. It's more complex, and we've seen more success with agents using it for complex topics. And we're now working on automating a lot of our agent workflows, as well as automated replies that go out to members. Adam has been a superstar assisting us with workflows, teaching us all the prompts and all the way to use Copilot automations. And Chris, Bree, and Matt and my team have been working with like annoying, workflows that we have opportunity to automate. Also, shout out to Kristen if she's joining. Most recently, we have automated thank you type of replies. So those annoying follow-ups that, I mean, they're not annoying, they're gratitude, but it's annoying to support them. So with NLP search and with Gen AI, we're able to automate and save on many, many touches per year by implementing automation. So yeah, we have a good strategy for Q2, Q3 this year. Mostly focused on member replies and those manual workflow automations, and looking forward also to learn more about the chatbot and kind of combining the platform's potential in the future, because we think that that would be a really good approach.
We're going to come back to more of how you've driven the agent adoption, because I think everyone has some good lessons on that. But
I'm also excited to hear about that. So I'm going to switch the mode to Q&A.
thank you. And Ben, please tell us a little about Ramp and where you're at.
Sure. Yeah, so hi everybody, my name is Ben. I lead operations and internal AI at Ramp. For those not familiar, Ramp is a B2B fintech company. Our general mission is to work on behalf of finance teams to help them save their companies the two most valuable resources they have, obviously money, since we're fintech, but also the team's time. I think the thing that we love most is being able to work for an often underserved team and finance professionals. But one of the challenges of that is finance is a pretty complicated topic, and our products, which range from corporate cards to bill payments to accounting automation to treasury products, become quite complicated. So our support environment spans hundreds and hundreds of topics, and our support teams almost have no tier one anymore. It's pretty much all kind of complex product and technical issues that come in. We were probably like midway through our support journey. Ramp as a company has always been very automation friendly and focused. It's built into the product and into the kind of building ethos within the company. And our support team, which is about 100 people at this point, has become pretty heavy adopters. We started really more on the automation and deflection side. So when I joined the company a couple of years ago, we were still in the kind of pre-LLM era with our chatbots. They were fairly laughably performant at that time. They hadn't been maintained as well as they could. We switched over to building our own in-house chatbot. That got us part of the way there. We've then worked with another third party to help supplement that, begin to plug in all of our APIs and intelligence, and we're up to now generally around 90% deflection on everything that comes in through our in-app channels. We're now testing out email, getting maybe 50-60% deflection there, and then live voice is kind of in the pilot phase. So definitely have seen a lot of benefits there and can go into more of kind of like what mattered to us as we built that out. But my support team, which now faces an even harder set of tickets because we've now automated all the easy ones, was having an even harder time doing their work. And so, yeah, we came to Assemble, who we'd long time worked with on the workforce management side as they were announcing Assist, and we're excited to kind of be one of their customers there. Initially got very little adoption from the team. I would say we rolled it out with little fanfare, so kind of on us for that. And after a month or two, basically stumbled into a killer use case, which I can go into more. Once we showed people the value, have jumped up to probably 90% daily active usage across our agent team. And it's expanded beyond just the kind of initial generate my follow-up notes or do a quick Q&A or summarize this set of things into some of the more advanced features as well. So yeah, getting the agents involved, having them kind of build alongside the Assemble team and us has been a big part of that. But we feel like we're on the way. I think everybody is still in the early stages of figuring out how to make AI work. And I would say we internally still feel like we're flailing even with any of the success that we've had. So if you are in that state of mind, that is totally normal these days.
We're coming back to success metrics. Some of what's working. Brian, please tell us a little about DailyPay and where you're at.
It's in the name. If you don't know what DailyPay is, we are the industry leader in what's considered on-demand pay. So right now, 6 out of every 10 people in the United States live paycheck to paycheck. And with our current economics, as you see today, people are even struggling even more so. So we integrate with companies' payroll systems. So once an employee works a shift and we can see it, they can actually take their money in a couple different ways right then. They don't have to wait for a normal pay period. They can manage their money the way that they want to. We have savings jars. We have other companies that we benefit and have benefits with that they can sign up for. So they're really able to manage their money and actually become better off than what they were if they were using the regular every 2 weeks. AI was 2 letters in DailyPay 2 years ago. That's all it was. All we had was a chat bot, and it did less than 1% of all of our contacts. That's it. And then we just start building on that. Over the past, I see the previous year before this past one, we were very much focused on what we call users. Those are users of our platform. We did a lot of stuff with them. We wanted to make it easier and simpler for them to know where their money's at, how they're spending their money, how they can get their money faster. What we started noticing, Ben mentioned it, we were siphoning off some of those easier calls. Well, all of a sudden, the more difficult calls are going to your agents, and your agents are getting a little upset with that. So this past year, we focused more on the agent experience. How can you expect your agent to give a great customer experience if you're not focused on the user experience? So we've been working with Assembled as well as other companies to try to make sure that we're giving that to our agents. So what we've seen is our AHT hasn't gone up, even though the calls are more difficult. Our QA's actually gone up. We're seeing the metrics that we wanted to stay there to show a great CX while we're implementing these AI tools and getting more usage along the way, because as Ben said, again, we saw a very low adoption rate. They're like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I don't need to use it. So we had to come up with strategies of how do we get them to use it? Who do we start with? Using the tool first and foremost versus rolling it out to everybody at once. And we're slowly getting there to where we're continuing with Copilot and other things now to really start getting the ball rolling to where all of our agents are using it. We did 4 million contacts last year. So we're trying to find a way to get those to deflection, self-service, making sure that our users can get what they need, when they want it, and how they want it.
All right, so quick level set for the audience here too. Sorry, we're not doing this for everyone who's remote, but how many of you have Copilot rolled out in some form, some kind of AI that's assisting your agents? Okay, so fairly new in this group here. How about using some kind of chat bot or chat AI? All right, we've got a majority of the room, I would say. And anyone doing voice automation yet? Okay, we've got some cutting edge up here at the front, which is exciting. We've got a little bit of a close, it looks like, in the back. So very exciting just to give you all a sense of where people are at. I think this group has been pretty early. And Brian, I'll actually throw it back to you with some of the metrics there. You guys have scaled phenomenally using technology to do it. Any of the metrics you feel comfortable sharing in this group about what you guys have done last year?
Yeah, it may not be with your tools, but that's okay. I'll get to those as well, though. Right.
We want everyone here to learn from.
Right, and I know it's an AI thing, right? First and foremost, people need to come to work, and we need to know when they're there and scheduled, right? Assembled. So there you go. There's the plug. I think it starts with quality, right? Quality is key to making sure that your customers come back to use your products, because if they don't, then what does AI really matter? What we've seen is giving some of the agents the tools, siphoning off some of the easier calls, doing the things that we did, and kind of changing the way that we interacted with our users. Really, we learned that we were speaking a different language. We were actually saying key terms within our company that our customers were not using. They had no idea what we were talking about. Now, we started learning that with AI, with a multitude of tools to say, wait a minute, the data that we were getting in and what the customers were saying doesn't match. So we started figuring out how do we change that with our training, our quality metrics, our rubrics. And we really started to manipulate in a positive way those things to where we started aligning really closely with our users. And we saw within about a 6 or 8 month period, we saw about a 22% increase in CSAT and an 8% increase in QA scores. And that really changed the dynamic of the mindset of some of our agents of, okay, wait a minute, maybe the tools that we're implementing actually work in our benefit. They're not just doing it to hold us accountable. They're doing it as a benefit to our job. What a lot of that did is, from a savings perspective, our business has grown about 140% in the past 18 months. My costs have gone down 50%. So it's a 190% swing is pretty good one.
Like
And
100, say that one more time.
190%
100,
swing.
yeah.
And it's a lot of things. Is it AI? AI is not a fix-all, right? There's this sweet spot between people, process, and technology. And that's where you have to implement the AI tools. You can implement all the tools that you want to, and if your users or customers don't care about them and don't use them, it really doesn't matter. So you have to understand your customer, you have to understand what they want, and then you have to piggyback those with your agents and the processes that you put in place to make sure that you're getting all of the results that you want to. So your ROIs hit those quality metrics, your savings metrics, and the things that matter to the bottom line, even though you're not making the decisions with the bottom line in mind. And that's kind of the way I went into it, because if you do, you're missing the mark.
You all have on your name tags the I love, and I love this about this
Yeah.
group too, is
We changed
there
it.
was, you all changed it, but I'm like, we had on Ben's I love customers. And I'm like, starting from that place, which I think everyone up here shares. Ben, I think you went through some pretty rapid iterations too to get to the place where it was really working for your customers.
Yeah, I think, at the end of the day, if you're in support, it's hopefully because you also like have an affinity for making the experience of the customers of the company you work for a great one. And you hire teams that are also really motivated to do that. And I think one of the big unlocks from AI is a lot of the work, especially in a more technical support organization, is not customer focused. It is about navigating complex, often Byzantine internal tools. It is rerouting tickets that got sent to you incorrectly to the right place. It is filling out the wrap-up notes when you finish the ticket. I think one of the things that we've tried to create, genuinely as the motivation for the cultural shift towards AI within our team is one of, let's learn really fast how AI can take away all of the work that isn't about talking to a customer, understanding a customer, doing the work on behalf of the customer with another partner of Ramp, if that's what it takes. It's all the human connections that the humans on the support team should be doing. And when we started working with Assembled, I think one of the things that was really helpful, here's my plug, is we had the Assembled team working right alongside our agents. And the first place that we went was to wrap up notes. We still had our agents having to write their own wrap up notes at the end of tickets. It's great practice. If you don't do it, it forces them to be somewhat cognizant of what they've just done, and it helps the next agent, if the ticket reopens, to know what happened. But it was taking a few minutes, and we were also pounding them to be efficient, and their tickets were also getting harder, and so there was a sense of pressure. So we brought them into a room with the Assembled team, and we said, push the wrap-up note button on the Copilot. And they pushed the button, and they were like, these are terrible wrap-up notes. If I read these as the next agent, I would be so mad. And the Assembled team, to their credit, took the beat and then was like, why? And you could tell they've done this before. The team's like, well, this should be in bullet point forms. There should be these sections to it, and you misinterpreted how to say whether the customer is authenticated. And then you just hear some typing on the Assembled side, and they're like, okay, click the button again. And then they click it again, literally in the meeting, 4 minutes, 5 minutes later. And they're like, oh yeah, this is good. We can use it. And I think it was that speed that was the aha moment for a portion of our team, where it's AI fundamentally changes development cost. And that's especially exciting for a team like CX that often doesn't get a lot of development dollars. And so from there, we've had way more engagement with the Assembled team whenever other issues come up, knowing that often that fix is just a couple of prompt tweaks or something away. And it's also gotten more of the team interested in even using, Assembled, other AI tools on the side, loading up Perplexity or ChatGPT because they want to learn how to do this themselves. And so I think that's been a big moment, is find that magic moment where you can show the speed with which you can evolve a support infrastructure with AI.
That circus is a really interesting tension, and I think, Sasha, you're in the middle of this too, so I'm going to ask you all about, there are things you can automate, which you can do that fast, right? And suddenly 5% of your ticket volume is just handled. And there's the behavior change of humans, which do not change like that normally. how are you all thinking about how much do you get out of human behavior change? And we're gonna come a little bit back to tips and tricks for everyone here who's trying to get agents to do different stuff. But what do you automate? What do you do with humans? What are you all finding works that it's maybe a roadmap for people here?
Yeah, I think it's a great question because we thought that our agents would just jump on it and then like start using it. And a lot of our, most of our agents are outsourced and they're not native speakers. I'm not. I use ChatGPT in my daily life and at work, and we didn't quite see high adoption right away. So we started shadowing them. We started asking, surveying them. We did a site visit. We were wondering like what prevents you from using it, and what we heard is that tone of voice is important. So they were really cognizant about keeping the brand guidelines. They were missing context information, so we use a lot of user, buyer, and seller data to inform our policies, to create workflows. So we're working on extending Cal to have that data and use kind of like contextual data to inform knowledge bases. And they didn't know how to use the tool, so we now updated our trainings to give them best practices on how to prompt. We saw that tenured agents actually use and ask a question quite more often than you, because they know what questions to ask. So we are giving those best practices to the new classes. New classes trust draft replies more than tenured agents because tenured agents know how to operate. They're already skilled. So they trust Cal less than newer agents, but we also see that now there are signals of customer satisfaction score improvement for power users. So we want to, our next strategy is to bring that back to our agents, say, okay, yeah, like you said, actually metrics are improving if you're using it regularly. We want to enable you. It's not going to replace you, right? It's going to enable you to be more efficient and more knowledgeable. I think one big learning from our launch is that we didn't remove any constraints of our metrics and usual quality and customer satisfaction score KPIs. So we didn't give agents like time to explore it and learn the tool. I think our recommendation would be like to give them a test period of like a month to just play with the tool, go through the learning curve, and to tell them like just do what's right for the customer, for our members. Of course, keep the tone, like try to do your best, but we're not going to judge you for your handle time. Just try to use Cal on every ticket as much as you can. Give us as much feedback as you can, so that we can fine tune the model and update it. So we're trying to now improve the model in collaboration with Assembled. Fine tune it, add more context, integrate more. We're also working on automations. Actually, this is the next strategy that we have, is to enable Cal with more automations that we are servicing to our members, but also draft those replies for agents so that they're more accurate. So they can trust Cal draft replies more. And then, once we complete kind of that work, do more workflow automations as well for those like task summaries, wrap-ups, annoying, task. We'll bring it back to our partners at outsourced centers, and we'll say, okay, you have to use it like regularly right now. We need your feedback, so we're gonna try to push it more on them. But we also realize that we need to do like more due diligence on our end and hear their feedback and like implement the features that they're asking for.
Here's a quick follow-ups from both Ben and Ryan. Did you guys relax metrics for a period of time when you asked agents to change behavior?
We did it on a grading curve. We knew that there was going to be some kind of a learning, and the first thing out was, well, what if Cal's wrong? What are you going to do about it for us?
Yeah.
So what we said was, let's run with this. At the end of a month, we're going to look and see how everybody performed. And if as a group, things are swaying one way or another, then we'll ebb and flow with it. And we did that, and it kind of helped. It's a great thing talking about new hires. We had to kind of force feed some. Our tenured agents said, we're not using this, and the usage was extremely low. So we actually said, we're going to stop asking them to use it. And we pivoted and only made our new hires use it. And then we created a buddy system with our tenured agents to have them work and help the new agents become acclimated to DailyPay. All of a sudden, they started seeing how it was working and helping the new agents get better and better stats. Well, all of a sudden, they started using it more. So we just kind of had to manipulate them a little bit without them knowing. It worked. Yeah.
Human tricks.
Yes.
That's some solid psychology right there.
So, and we're starting to see that movement as well. And the same thing, trusting the auto replies, trusting the things that they're seeing in chat. They're getting much more trusting of the tool. Still some ways to go, right? As the business change and we make changes to it, they take a step back and then they take 2 steps forward again.
Yeah, maybe I'm the heartless one. We didn't give anybody any break. We just said, here's tools, they should make you better. We actually raised the metrics. That was probably a little bit premature, but I do think like there's a way of great agents who have great metrics already and don't want to use these tools. That's fine. In the same way as our engineering team at Ramp, our top engineers, some of them are like, I'm never touching Cursor or Claude Code or some of these like AI engineering tools. And they're still 5 times more productive than the people who are using them because they're just really, really good engineers. We have some support agents who I'm fine with just not using them. But I do think for the average agent, it's going to raise the floor. It's going to make it so that everybody should be able to achieve some level of productivity. And I think it's more fun. Like I think if you do start using it, and a lot of those same engineers, by the way, are now like rabid Cursor users and things like that. And I think the same is true of our CX team, which has now just statistically hit pretty ubiquitous usage of these tools. But I think like holding the line is another option of just like, hey, if you're struggling and you're the one that's like at risk, this is probably a great Hail Mary for you, if nothing else, that might get you on a better track. I also think it's really important that CX agents learn the new risks and the new benefits of these tools. Like there are huge benefits because sometimes you can just hit the button and it one shots in your answer to the ticket and you saved 15 minutes because this was some obscure question. And all you have to do is quickly validate that yes, it's in fact right, and then hit send. But there's a lot of other times where it gives a totally sensible sounding answer, but you have to know the product well enough and the user's configuration well enough to know that they have some exception applied and this is not going to be the right answer for them. And so you still, it can't replace you being hired to be an expert in this product, especially for kind of more product support roles. And yeah, we've made sure to hold the bar steady there and ask people to kind of teach us what they're learning and work that back into the training. So we have done a lot of work to make sure that new hires and even existing hires have access to the best practices as we learn them.
And not to make sure that Ben doesn't feel like he's on an island. Even though we lessened the metrics, we're now at a point that we've raised every single metrics within the call center because of a lot of these AI tools. So we shaved a little bit off, but now we've actually gained much more. So, and the agents are okay with that per se, because they're seeing everybody's metrics going up. So they know we're not just raising them to raise them. We're raising them because everybody's gotten better.
It's a great point. Like find even if it's like the 50th percentile or the 30th percentile of the team, like everybody should be hitting that bar over time.
All right, so you saw everyone said here is a little earlier in their adoption curve. If you were doing it again today, would you start with Copilot? Would you start with things you automate? Would you do it in parallel? Where would you start for starting over?
You got to do both pretty fast, or you will run into the conundrum of agents drowning in like an increased level of complexity. I do think it helps to start with Copilot because it will force you to do some fundamental things that also help. To start with Chatbot because it will force you to do some fundamental things that assist Copilot. First among those is like getting your knowledge in order. If you have messy documentation or incomplete documentation, you're effed on all of this stuff. Like you can't ever create a functional chatbot above a certain level of quality.
Do people have to wait until their knowledge is pristine before they?
In fact, you'll find
use
out
AI?
much faster what knowledge is out of date once you build. In fact, go as fast as you can to get a bad chatbot out there because the first 20% of deflection you'll get just through it telling you, or your customers, if you're bold enough, telling you when it was totally wrong. That's crucial. And I think from there, the chatbot stuff is in some ways strictly harder than the chatbot stuff. sorry, I keep doing this stuff, the Copilot stuff is strictly harder than the chatbot stuff in the sense that agents are handling the stuff that was too hard for the chatbot. And so it usually means it required extra context or it required more handholding of the customer. And so, yeah, I think start a little early on the chatbot, but pretty quickly try to fold in.
Tasha, Ryan, where would you guys start today?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's like chicken and egg, right? I think my point is that it has to be a unified platform at some point. Like that's my recommendation. And that's not what we have right now, but I feel like there's a lot of double work that we're doing both on the chatbot and the Copilot teams. Those are two different teams now too. So we're doing parallel work and like connecting APIs to our internal systems, which can be unified and optimized. And we actually get in the same learnings. Like some of the resources were inefficient for both bots and realized that at the same time. But yeah, that could have been done, together. And we have a lot of automations already on the email side of business. So that was a good starting point for us. So I guess originally we started with automated email responses a long time ago. And now we're converted those into the chatbot responses as well as converted them into AI email responses with Cal and draft responses. So we have a library of that, and we know how they're performing. We know the CSAT for reopens with those. So we have a good start there, and I think that's already useful. But also, yeah, we're learning a lot now about how we can update our knowledge base and update our training for agents, bots, copilots, and the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Ben. The chat bot, the learning's there, and then over to more of the agent focus. What I would say though is we talk a lot about the tools and the resources there. Don't forget about the people resources. It takes a lot to continue to train, update these tools. All of the background knowledge bases, the rubrics, the this, the that, and the other, go out and train it. So it's not just, hey, we're going to plug a AI in and we're going to flip the switch and we're going to sit in our recliner and just kind of hang out. No, it takes a lot of people power as well. So just know that going in, that if you have a small team, know what the lift is going to be. Know that you may need more resources. It's not going to be easy, especially in the short term. It is going to be brutal getting it off the ground. But once you do, then you get into the swing of things and it is a little easier. But it's very beneficial once you do. But it is not just about the tools. It's the people that get the tools where they need to be.
I think the smaller, the newer, the earlier the company you work at is, the better positioned you are not to have to do a lot of that painful work too. So congrats to the startup folks. You haven't yet made all the mistakes that you will now regret as you try to implement AI.
What are the most critical people resources that you all have leaned on to be successful? What staffing does everyone here need to plan for? Or skills?
We'll definitely dedicate people to Copilot, just like the chatbot team. I mean, I think everyone knows you have to staff for the chatbot because it's conversational designers, but you also need a conversational designer for the Copilot. And we didn't have that at the beginning. Now we have a full-time person, and we have great support on the training and the enablement team, Bree over here. And but I feel like also it has to be maybe more dedicated people on both knowledge base, enablement training, and back team. And we are now learning a lot from Assemble team because that's our first time running this program. We don't know much how to prompt. We're learning together. We're running use cases, but we also leverage your resources, and that's been really great. But I feel like that program is only gonna grow, and maybe it's gonna shift into more combined again team with that oversees knowledge-based training, enablement for agents, chatbots, and Copilot together. Yeah.
I think most of it. I think having somebody who does knowledge management and or API creation and what your company strategy for that is going to be kind of the feeders into any good AI tool. is really crucial. And having that person who may be like a more traditional knowledge manager be interested in learning how this stuff feeds into AI is also helpful to help you speed up on that piece. Somebody who's thinking about how you do change management out to the team. This is a lot of change. I actually think the change is going to accelerate in the coming months. So you'll thank yourself for like getting a person who might be a little underutilized today, but they will quickly be quite busy as this stuff continues to speed up. And then, I don't know, I've actually like also just been lucky enough to often have like an AI maniac wizard person who just kind of is really, really interested in, it's like prompt engineering, but more than that, they like see everything as a reason to go try to write a prompt or an AI automation, and giving that person some tools to just run with. You know, we came to Assemble having already tried bespoke versions where we just like, we used Zendesk for our CRM, and we would just identify from agents shadowing them or something like, oh, this is really annoying that they don't have this context. And you would just go in the background and like write like a deep note notebook that called an LLM and that dropped an internal note into every ticket where that thing was true. And agents would just be like, oh, wow, now I know how to do this thing. And it's extremely janky looking and it doesn't work a third of the time. And eventually we would bring in an Assemble to just do it for us. But having somebody who can do the really, really messy prototyping of stuff, I think unlocks people's sense of vision for what's possible.
I don't know that I can add much more to that. I mean, the knowledge base, someone that can tinker with the tools, learning, understanding what the users, customers are saying. The only thing I would really add to it is we talk about, and yeah, ask the question, what would you do first? How would you implement this, that, and the other? Really try to understand what tools interest you, understand how you would implement them, and then try to create this roadmap of how you feel they will be best for your company and for your users or customers, and then try to stick to that. If you play this kind of bouncing ball approach, it's not going to work. Have a methodology of how you're going to implement these tools and just stick to it. Even though you're going to have bumps in the road, that's fine. But if you try to move pieces around and bring something forward and move things, it's just not going to work. Stay the course, stay with what you believe in is best for you and your customers, and you'll be better off. But have that vision of, we're going to start here, then we're going to do this, then we're going to do this. And I think you'll be better off because of that.
One none of you mentioned, but I think every one of you has brought to the work is also people who are experts in your own product, who know what good looks like, what your voice should be, what you want the tone and style to be. Especially, I know, Sasha, you guys have changed your brand voice, and like, how do you get agents to change? It turns out AI is really compliant with the style. But all of you have had people who know what the right answer is and can therefore quickly make progress.
Yeah, somebody, whoever your person who's the most nitpicky QA person is a great one to have involved early, because they'll be relishing being able to audit and point out the flaws in the early versions.
Okay, last question for all of you, and then we're going to open it up. So think about the questions you have for this group. Last one I'd ask is, what's the thing you wish you'd known at the beginning of this? Really is the parting advice for everyone here. If you could go back and tell your former self, or everyone who's just getting started, what's the thing to know?
Yeah, like for us, I think relax on metrics. Given agents some time to learn the tool, to play with it, to allow for us to shadow them, to like join, have Assemble join, you know, and shadow them. Yeah, like try to give them a little bit more time for learning and testing the tool, to get that feedback faster, and then yeah, implement that, like plan time for implementing the feedback too, because like other teams were coming to us and they were asking like, okay, well, is this gonna stay? Like, is this like, what's your plan with it? You know, how are we gonna improve the program? How are we gonna increase adoption? And we didn't have the answers right away. Like, we needed some time to learn the feedback and understand the needs. But also at the same time, we didn't have enough data from agents because they were too afraid to try. So I guess that's like the biggest takeaway. Like, yeah, relax the metric, give them some time to test it out.
Take away the fear piece. You all hit on in some form. Take away the fear.
Yeah, I think similar theme. Yeah, like my maybe different approach is like CX culture is going to have to change. And I think a big way, frankly, even if you're not in CX teams or support teams, like your culture is going to have to change. The speed, even in 2025 versus 2024, with which new innovation in AI rolls out from like frontier to just everybody should be using it, is going from halves to quarters to months, and probably like now there are some weeks where I'm like, well, that tool's now done and I got to use this new one because everything just changed. And that's probably going to sustain for a while. And so it's really like the culture you set within the team has to be different, and that has to flow down into every part of how you build the team. I think who we hire for is different now than 6 months ago. Our onboarding program is completely different. The way we communicate performance metrics and give agents visibility into them is different. The way that we like celebrate people calling out issues with our knowledge or AI tools has had to change a lot. And then we've also just had to say, hey, your muff's assembled, like assembled is great right now. If something better comes along in 2 months, like we will probably make you all learn the new thing if it is enough better. Like I think the inertia of any given tool is going down because of the speed with which new, better things are coming out. And luckily, teams like Assembled understand that and are working really fast too. So credit back to you guys.
We'll take that gauntlet throwing and keep innovating and moving as fast as, I'm an AI maximalist. It's like the AI you use today is the worst AI you will ever use. It just keeps getting better incredibly fast. So you should all expect that.
Totally reasonable that support teams are not. And so I think knowing that you have to like take them through that transition and maybe not end them up at pure maximalism, but it's somewhere comfortable where like they understand why things are changing the way that they are is really important.
2 things. I think when we started a lot of our AI journey, we started with the baseline. Our baseline was wrong because we were not aligned with our customers. So we implemented stuff and then had to kind of start over. So make sure that you are in tune with what your customers are saying, wanting, knowing. That way you get started off on the right foot. The second thing I would say is there are more companies out there that are going to come to you with everything under the sun. I'm sure all of their tools are great. Find a company that knows your business because they will make better decisions for you. Assembled is one of them, right? From day one, when we did the workforce management tool, they knew exactly what we were looking for compared to everyone else, and we're still with them because of that. How quick they are to find things out, to change things for us, to understand what our needs are, and say, oh, you need another one of these? Okay, yep, we're working on that. So someone can bring you the shiny new toy. Just make sure that they know why they're bringing it to you, and does it fit in your culture? Does it fit for your customers? Does it fit for your journey? If not, find someone else.
All right, questions from you all. We'll do a couple minutes of questions and then we're gonna go have drinks upstairs. Yeah,
Over here.
over here. So go have drinks over here. And yeah, please, and tell us maybe quickly your name and where you're at, just as context for this group.
I'm Margaret at Elise AI, and we started in March using Assembled's Assist. So we're doing chat, email, and Copilot. We're focusing like 95% of our energy right now on chat. I did want to know more about, Sasha, you mentioned a conversation builder role specifically for Copilot, and I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I think it's like very similar to how the chatbot teams have conversational designers. Obviously risks are higher on that side because it's customer facing. But what we are realizing is that we need a very similar role on the Copilot side. And that's probably someone who is from internal teams who know what's good. So right now those functions are distributed between Brie and Chris, and then we also leverage our tier 3 teams. We also have Kristen, who previously worked with like seller tickets and buyers, so she's also familiar with the workflows. But yeah, I think it has to be someone internal who knows the processes, the workflows, who knows your CRM, who knows your ticket platform. Who realizes the needs. And then, well, we are a two-sided marketplace, so questions are different, requests have different types, right? So usually we split our operations into buyer, seller support. So we imagine, that can be in the future, 2 different lines of businesses. But yeah, because it's a lot about like fine tuning the model, right? Creating those automations, creating those workflows, informing assembled when we need, creating those workflows, understanding agents' needs. Essentially, yeah, it's like it's a prompt designer, conversational designer as well. And then another big part is that we're not relying on agents to provide feedback and to train the Copilot. We rely more on providing the ticket expert to the system, so fine-tuning it from the back end. So for that, you also need to be to collaborate, or you need to know what good tickets are. You can collaborate with the quality assurance team, but what we learned is that sometimes they don't know what we're looking for, so we had to go back and forth, between assembled, quality, training, and then like really wasn't asked to provide that set of experts, and it was well, the first iterations were painful, but we're getting better. And then we also want to look more for insights. So great point on like incentivizing agents to flag those insights to us, but also we want to do more due diligence on the back end, not for the sake of quality assurance, but for looking for the outliers. So it has to also be someone who understands, again, like what's good is. And creating its own, probably quality assurance rubric to find those tickets, to report them back, to fine-tune the model based on the insights that we find by monitoring the back end of the system.
Didn't ask you all about the tactical tricks, but you just gave a good reminder about it. You have a bounty.
Oh yeah, we've over time incentivized agents by basically, it's not financial yet. Maybe someday it will be, but basically if you have like a bad assembled interaction and flag it, you get kind of credit on your performance for the month for like how many of those things you flagged. It's like quiet in the background. We still would rather you focus on getting like a high CSAT score than flagging this stuff, but the celebration of it, I think, is the biggest thing. And I'll personally reach out to agents who like provided a piece of input, close the loop with them, be like, hey, this let us like make some changes. This shouldn't be an issue anymore. One thing I would add, maybe like we don't use Assembled for our chatbot, but in general, in building the chatbot is like if you can convince your company to do it, getting like an engineering or data science attachment to the operators, just the way that they think will complement the operators in a really helpful way, because a lot of building this stuff out, even with great builder tools like was demoed here, requires systems thinking in a way that a technical person can often augment the operations team to build.
More Jedi mind tricks here, right? If you can gamify some of this stuff, right? These agents that don't want to use it, tell them, hey, tell me all the things that are wrong. Don't think that they're not going to jump on that like that. And then over time, they're going to start softening and using it. So anything that you can do, one, it helps you because they're finding all the stuff that may not be working. And two, they're going to start figuring out the tool actually, for the most part, works more times than not. So I think that's really that piece of it. Anything that you can do, anything, it doesn't matter if it's gamification, if it's whatever the case, find that to get that segment of agents that are like, yeah, you're crazy, want me to use this crap, right?
We had a notorious tier 2 agent who was like very anti anything AI. I think it was about 3 weeks ago. Somebody from our leadership team dropped in like a DM screenshot from on Slack that was him saying, I think I'm starting to get the AI thing now, and it got blown up with emojis and stuff. We were very excited. Felt like a watershed moment.
I think that's another shift, like we'll be changing job descriptions, to include and I guess prioritize people who are interested in AI, like in the CX space, not only admin side, but also in the agent profiles, even in the outsourcing, right? Because like we need them to be adopters and we need them not to be afraid of the technology. And I think that's going to be, on the recruiting HR side, it's going to also be a shift.
One more unprompted pro tip, by the way, give your agents access to ChatGPT or Perplexity or some general use AI tool. Because another big piece of this is Assembled's a great tool, but it feels like a CX tool. And it can make it confusing to them what's happening under the hood. We've also just really encouraged our agents to play with core chat conversational interface AI tools, because I think it just gives a much better sense of how broadly applicable these things are. And then you can have a better conversation about here's what's happening under the hood when you click the button on the Copilot tools with Assemble. So don't be stingy, like let them use ChatGPT if you have like an enterprise account or something.
Awesome. And I've heard this advice broadly for any of you across functions too, is building intuition of what AI can and can't do only lets you use it more effectively. So I think that's a great way to help people build the intuition of what's possible, even as it's changing rapidly. Other questions? Yeah, please.
Yeah, my name's Henry. I'm at CX Consultants. I work mostly in smaller brands, and I'm curious how you think about, I guess, like the phasing. My career has been around like improving the experience, adding information to pages. Do you feel like you've reached a point where you've picked the low-hanging fruits? The next phase is AI, or you still have like a different team that's still focused on or improving experiences and AI team runs in parallel?
It's all one thing for us at this point, but I'm having a hard time remembering a time that it wasn't. Like I think the way we're set up, my team reports into the product organization, so we've always had a very like technology centric approach, and AI layered in pretty seamlessly. So I'd probably defer to others too.
Yeah, in my org, we have a product and engineering team that develops everything. I get nothing. And I say that jokingly, but it's true. So we've kind of gotten to the point to where I've created this. We're just going to do it on our own. However we can do it. We'll do it with bubble gum and duct tape, and we find our vendors that have something. And as long as I don't need product engineering to do something in the background, so we can do it our own with the APIs, we're going to do it. So we're doing both at the same time. We're making sure that the people stuff is where it needs to be while we're implementing the AI stuff, and we're watching to see if it's getting the ROI that we want. And if we need to squeeze one a little bit more or the other, we're going to keep watching that to make sure. Your customers and the users will tell you. All you have to do is listen. And a lot of the data and information you're going to get in analytics from the AI is going to tell you that. You're just going to sift through some of it. But yeah, I think doing both of them at the same time is the best way to do it, because you can play each of them off each other in a good way, of course.
Very similar to us, our chatbot team actually reports to the product side of business, and product informs the expansion of our support offerings. So we mostly use it to strategically, provide new channels or expand into more categories of buyers and sellers. So the product, steps in and say like, okay, we need this workflow here, and we need them to address, this new launch or this bug. So, and then for our team, we work on the back side of the operations and we consider, I guess, our agents, our customers. So we think about more of how we can enable them to be more productive. So on the front end, we increase availability, and the back end, we increase reliability, if that makes sense.
All right, one more question. Yeah, please. Two more questions. All right, two more.
This will be a two-part. You mentioned relaxing. You mentioned relaxing the metrics, and I'm just curious, like how long you often saw until you saw an increase in agent productivity, whether it be 1 month, a quarter, or 6 months. And then the second part, you all mentioned basically needing more information than just your knowledge base in order to improve Copilot and needing to layer on what information or integrations move the needle there.
Well, we haven't done the metrics relaxation, so maybe Ryan can.
Yeah. We didn't put a time frame on it to begin with, but we also let them know it's not going to go on forever, right? We did ours roughly about 45 to 60 days, and let them know that the expectation is at some point we're going to get back to where we were, if not better. We know that there's a learning curve, and we're going to be making sure that we're there to support you. We're there to listen to your feedback. But during that period, as we're all learning, because it's a new tool, not just for the agents, it's a new tool for all of us that are implementing and learning and fixing and tinkering and building in the back scenes as well. So I wouldn't go overboard, because all of a sudden, then you're going to have this whiplash approach of, well, 6 months, I've been kind of coasting. Now all of a sudden, right? So you set some boundaries. is what I would say. And we kind of did that a little bit like, hey, we're going to do it for a while, probably a month or two, but I wouldn't expect it much longer.
Yeah, we didn't, like I said, we didn't relax the metrics. I will say that like all I wanted up front was usage. I didn't say start using this and you need to be 30% more efficient. I was just like, just use it. So maybe that was my version of relaxing the metrics a little bit. It was not raising them. And for some of our higher tier agents, it's still not more efficient using the tool, and we're figuring that out. And I think in a lot of ways, you need to take accountability as a leader of a CX organization for achieving the results. It's not on the agents as long as they're providing feedback. It's on you to then work fast with your partners or with your teams internally to get that done. And so we haven't been real particularly draconian that it's like now that you're using AI, the curve is steepened immeasurably. The other side is what we all started talking about, which is we've also keep deflecting more and more of the easy stuff. And so it's a hard metric to peel apart at Ramp. On your second question on kind of what other data is important, I think like start simple, like our knowledge base, Ramp has like a lot of different user types, right? We have administrators and bookkeepers and people who just have a card and need to get expenses approved. And our help center, when I first started, was like written very lazily in terms of it assumed you knew what your role was when you read it, because you probably did if you were like out seeking help. But an LLM didn't. And so for the first iteration of our chatbot, we would just constantly get, and our Copilot, frankly, we would constantly get recommendations for answers where that'd be great if you were a bookkeeper, but you're not. And so you have no access to even the part of the product that it's telling you to go navigate to. And so one, we fixed the knowledge base, and it's now almost obnoxiously explicit about what role you need to be for every single part of the knowledge base. But on the other side, yeah, we've also, I think just today, actually, speed with assembled. Like a few days ago, I was like, hey, we need to pull in the user pool and add it to the context that goes along into the assembled queries. And they've added that, and I suspect that will now like massively improve the relevance of results that we're getting back when we try and draft replies. And we already know kind of the next half dozen from the simple things. Then it's like, how do you feed it all the APIs that power your internal systems and things? Sasha talked a lot about that. And that's a longer process because there's actually a lot of AI safety questions you need to keep in mind as you do that work.
I'd say too, don't treat each one of your tech stacks in a silo. All right. Make sure that what one is saying, the other is saying kind of the same thing. That way your users and customers are hearing the same, and then take the data that you're getting from one and bounce it against what you're getting from the other, making sure that they're working in tandem, even though they may be an IVA and they're a agent assist. They don't, right? Or auto summaries, looking at them in tandem with each other and using that data against each other to make sure that they're moving in the same direction at the same time.
AI is also really good at comparing things and seeing if they don't agree. So we use a lot of like behind the scenes passive AI that's constantly just trying to find gaps between our knowledge sources and different tools.
I think you hit this. I talked to a large company that literally had their AI program halted for 6 months because they had two different AIs that disagreed on the same question. They were like, what do we do as a company that has to worry about compliance when our two AIs are giving different answers to the customer about the same question? So it's certainly that risk. I think, Sasha, you highlighted earlier, having multiple platforms that are disconnected. Same thing, right? Like, make sure stuff is coherent in a way that your customer experience is good and you don't end up with AIs warring with each other over the right answer.
Because more times than not, you're probably going to have two different companies too. How are they working?
Or just standardize on assembled. We can solve that too.
Sure. I mean, it is a good point. I mean, I'm trying to downsize a little bit as well. More than you can get with a smaller amount of tech stack providers is good as well. It helps the back end, helps connectivity and the flow of data and information. But yeah, I think that is important to make sure that both or many of the companies are in that same realm.
And it's great to hear that the knowledge mapping, that's also something we struggled with, but yeah, like surfacing the right content to the right people is really important. And for us, it's like, yeah, lines of businesses of seller and buyers, but also there's trust and safety content that is like not relevant to our support agents. And we had to do a lot of work with Assemble too, and we're still in the process of now auditing our knowledge bases to also have the same taxonomy, I would say. Yeah. And I think that's a great point that, that's the fine tuning that needs to go across all the platforms that CX teams need to be aware of. Like, yeah, to not to operate in silo, but to combine the systems. Yeah, and there's some, denominator that you can use, probably that you'll know, whether it's your agent profiles or your user profiles or both, but that's really important.
All right, I think we have one last, is that where you were pointing, Ryan?
Yes.
Where you are, thank you, bring us home with our last question.
Jojo, I lead planning and operations at for our team. I think my question, because I've been writing this out, I'm hearing a lot of conversation around AI, like focused on agent-facing tools and content quality, but I'm curious about the operational layer, specifically on like workforce management routing. When it comes to your AI strategy, have you explored ways to use AI to proactively do workforce management, specifically like when I'm thinking about tracking performance issues and identifying and flagging those gaps, like poor routing or under resourcing in certain areas, certain verticals, before they become real problems? I'd love to know what you've done in the past. And I think someone mentioned using passive AI in the background always. But to me, as somebody who leads ops, it's a lot of money and that's a lot of tech running at the same time.
You're making me wish we'd also given you a demo of the AI in workforce management, but maybe that's for another.
Yeah, I don't know if that
conversation.
question's for us or for these two.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's actually more for them. Right? I mean, in all actuality,
I'm happy to also share some stuff after if
Yeah.
people are interested, but there's quite a bit of,
Mhm.
I think, amazing intersection, and this is maybe gets to the fundamentals of there are AI companies that are all about eliminating people, and there are AI companies that believe in augmenting people, and we've always at Assemble believed you should help people do the amazing things people are uniquely great at and automate away the rest. So a lot of the operational layer is how do you put people in the places where they're going to be high impact. I think that's true for all of you to create connection and amazing relationships. And that there are lots of ways that, and John hinted at this with some of the, hey, let's use the real-time stats of people availability and can we get you an answer quickly, is a great way. And if you look behind the scenes at things like, well, let's also move people where they're needed at this moment in time, where it's getting much easier than it used to be dynamic about where do we put people to give the right answers and a great experience. And that's certainly the vision of how these things do all come together and power amazing experiences for customers.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think a couple of things, like tactical tips that I would say there is, one, don't try to do it all with AI. Like, the powerful pieces of the operations management are subtle for where you should plug in AI. So for us, it was just literally just more accurately and in more nuanced ways, pre-categorizing tickets. And from there, we used Zendesk and Assembled and other tools in the traditional way that they would always run, but you could just unlock way more proactive routing to the right place. And so, yeah, I would say like treat AI as one part of your traditional system rather than trying to say, oh, we're going to rip out our workforce prediction tool and just like ask ChatGPT to do it for us once a month. The other side of it though is ask ChatGPT to do for you once a month. Like get AI involved in the analytical layer here. Like plug in your last 6 months of SLA data and be like, point out the trends here. Tell me where all the gaps are. Propose ways that you might fix this, and then ask another AI to read that AI's thing and disagree with it in important ways, and like just go down the rabbit hole with it. But I think there's like both the ongoing operations stuff, and there within operations it's been more subtle for us, and then there's the you as the operator. Like AI should be foundational to your workflows too, and can really like advance the way that you see the problems.
I've always looked at my job in operations as trying to work myself out of a job. That our service is so good, our products are so good, and our tools are so good that no one ever has to reach out to us. That's never going to happen. It's never going to happen, right? No matter what, you're still going to have that person that's bored and lonely at 1 a.m. and just wants to talk to someone, right? That's going to reach out. So when you're implementing the AI piece, it's constantly going to change the way that you're going to use people, because once you implement it, you're not quite sure how your customers are going to use it. And depending on how your product changes, depends on how they use it again. So it's this constant push and pull between automation, self-service, and your people. So that piece of the analytics and the workforce management tools are extremely important because you have to make sure that the people are being moved. You see the schedules, you see the heat maps, you know where your areas of opportunity are, because I assure you, your customer won't be as mad if a tool isn't working. They're going to be damn mad if they want to talk to someone and they're not there. So you have to make sure that that piece is even more solid in my mind than the tool, because you can always route past the tool. Can't route past the person. There's nobody else unless you're going to forward it to your own cell number, right? I stopped doing that years ago. Yeah.
I mean, do it if you're a smoker.
There's your last pro tip. Do not forward it all to your cell phone.
Just get a special phone.
All right, and with that, thank you all. You now know who to come ask questions to drinks, and thank you.
Thank you.
So the drinks are served in the kitchen, just on the left. And there's lots of assembled flags you grab, enjoy.
That was awesome. Hey, yeah, nice meeting you in person finally, yeah? It's like, I always see you on the Zoom calls and it's like,